Hey guys, essentially I'm here to talk to you today for one of my assignments for uni in a subject, Future Cultures BCM 325, about cryptocurrency and e-waste. Now, the reason I'm talking about this is because at the moment I'm actually building my own PC, and I wish I could say it was for something great like doing more uni work or whatever, but at the end of the day it's pretty much just so I can play games. So with e-waste, the major impact on the environment actually comes during the production of a computer, which requires about 240 kilos of fossil fuels, 22 kilograms of different chemicals, and over 1.5k litres of water, which is pretty ridiculous in the scheme of things. Waste from electronics and electronic equipment, or WEEs for short, represents a wide source of waste globally, and the amount included in leading up to 2014 was over 50 million tonnes being dumped per year, forecasted to increase by 3 to 5% each year. During my research on the topic, I found that there seemed to be a large lack of knowledge surrounding recycling of electronic products and the like. So I found a survey that was commissioned by TechCollect, which found that 83% of people who had electronic goods lying around didn't know where they should go to recycle their old electronics. 60% didn't know e-waste could be recycled. 58% didn't want to pay to have it recycled. And 52% voiced concerns about having their personal data stolen. A further testament to this lack of knowledge includes how when electronics are recycled, they are completely taken apart, making having data stolen nigh impossible. And the fact that in Australia, the process of having electronics recycled is free. The Bureau of Statistics released an article in 2013 that said that between 2007 and 8, of the 15.7 million computers that reached their end of life, only 1.5 million were actually recycled. The biggest issue around electronic waste is how so much of it isn't actually recycled and just ends up in landfill. The major problems with this is that we're often throwing away valuable and a lot of the time reusable components, which is especially true for PCs or personal computers, whatever you want to say, where much of the quality of the stuff inside of them is things like gold, which when melted down can be resold for a relatively healthy price of the original cost. Now, even though recycling, based on all this, sounds like the way to go, unfortunately it isn't too great, at least not in Australia yet. If I was to take my parents' computer, per se, to be recycled, 80% of that computer would almost immediately find itself on a cargo ship, being shipped over to places like China, Nigeria, Korea, India, and other similar countries to be disassembled over there. This wouldn't be too much of a problem in and of itself, except for the fact of the working conditions that are over there. The things found inside computers are chemical waste at the end of the day and are very toxic to people, especially when melted down. And in these countries, there is no proper system in place to ensure not only the workers' protection, but to prevent them from releasing these chemicals into the environment. So the second thing I wanted to talk about was cryptocurrency. Now, crypto is mined through a variety of different methods, such as using the CPU, central processing unit, the GPU, graphics processing unit, or a graphics card, I guess, that you would find in any computer, or something called an ASIC, which is an application-specific integrated circuit, with the primarily used options being GPUs and ASICs. ASIC mining uses a type of chip that is specialized in a single process and consists of an ASIC chip, power source, fan, and the mining software, and is a circuit used by people trying to make it big mining cryptocurrencies, so making a lot of money out of Bitcoin, for example. Casual miners, on the other hand, who aren't actually too worried about maybe losing a bit of money at first or just want to try out mining for the fun of it, on the other hand, use GPUs, which are optimized for taking huge batches of data and performing the same operation over and over again very quickly. In this case, of course, meaning mining block, which is then passed on for cryptocurrency. Now, even though ASICs are more specialized in mining, there are some cryptocurrencies which are geared more towards being mined with a GPU, for example, Ethereum or Ether or whatever you want to call it. And because of this, many miners who are looking to buy it are going around buying out retail stores worth of graphics cards. The ability to mine crypto using graphics card has put a major strain on the industry selling them, as miners go around, like I just said, buying out many of these sellers of all their graphics cards. to be used for mining, which in turn creates a lack of supply and a high demand for these products, and the prices of many of these graphics cards will skyrocket at resellers to be over 100% of their recommended retail price. This is made worse by the fact that there's only a finite number of any cryptocurrency, and the way that the system is designed is essentially the more people who are trying to mine them, the more difficult it becomes to find them, and the more of them that have been mined, the more difficult it becomes again. The reason for this is, say you only have 100 of any type of cryptocurrency. If there's 10 people looking for it, then it'll take a set amount of time for each of them. You know, each one of those 10 people are going to get 10, provided I said 100 total, whatever I said, 10 per person. But if there's 20 people, then they're only getting 5 each, and it'll take longer to find them. More so, with the sort of sequential way that they're found, once you have found all the first lot, you have to go deeper and deeper into the system in order to find new ones, which requires more processing power, which requires more graphics cards. That being said, it's not all doom and gloom for graphics cards, the price of them, and the people trying to buy them. History has shown us that, especially with crypto mining, when the prices of these graphics cards get jacked up so high, they will eventually come back down. And there are two major reasons for this. The first being how back in 2014, after I guess one of the first crypto booms where everyone was jumping on the bandwagon of doing it, we saw many graphics cards price skyrocket as a result, and it was very difficult to obtain them. But after Bitcoin especially, because it was the main crypto at the time, took a big hit to the amount that it was worth, people started to realize how unprofitable it was to be running all these graphics cards, which are expensive to run all day, for the amount of returns that they were making. So people gave up on it. And then not only did they have to sell off the graphics cards that they bought, but they were selling at a lower price than the recommended retail price, which sort of reset the market and brought everything out to A-OK. The other big factor that will influence the price of graphics card are how some cryptos like Ether or Ethereum are changing from a proof of work, which is the mining of the currency, to a proof of stake based system. Now, proof of stake is ownership. The reason for this, I guess you could liken it to shares in a company. It's a bit similar in the fact that you don't have to mine shares for a company. But proof of work is like when you initially buy the shares from the company, and then proof of stake is the company no longer has any of the shares, but all the people who have bought them can still trade it amongst themselves. And the effects of this will be that people no longer need graphics card because there's no longer any reason to be mining, and the prices will be reset. The only issue, though, with both of these things is it's next to impossible to predict when either of them are going to occur. So this next bit I want to speak about isn't actually part of the assignment I mentioned at the start, which I'm only limited to a certain amount of time for. But this last section, which still has to do with cryptocurrency, is something that really interests me. And so I thought, you know, if you've already waited around till this point looking at my smug face, then you might as well wait around for a couple minutes more. So specifically, I want to talk about Ethereum and other cryptocurrencies as sort of a knock-on effect have recently come under regulatory scrutiny from the US Securities and Exchange Commission, or the SEC, as they debate whether it and other cryptocurrencies should be treated as securities. The main aim of this is to determine if the founders of virtual currencies, other than Bitcoin, which has already been confirmed for, have any control over the value of their currencies, with the intention in mind of protecting consumers from any sort of unfair practices. The major idea coming out from behind this is a debate between two US federal regulatory agencies about what cryptocurrency actually is. The Commodity Future Trading Commission has labeled them as commodities, which are defined as any raw material or agricultural resource which can be bought or sold, which would mean they're exempt from SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, regulation. On the other hand, the SEC sees them as securities and is looking to apply security laws to not only exchanges of these digital assets, but also to their storage. So to define a security is actually pretty out there. I'm not even 100% sure of it myself, but from my understanding, a security can be a share, like I mentioned earlier, that you would buy, released by a company, a debenture, which is also something released by a company, and it's sort of a long-term investment secured against the company's assets that have a fixed return against them, and managed investment schemes. Now, this is what the SEC are trying to convince people that crypto are, And a managed investment scheme, you know all those scam things that you will not always scam, but things you hear about, like if you all invest your money into this, you know, if you put this in, you put this in, we'll then invest this money into something and you will get, you know, some ridiculous, almost impossible, too good to be true amount of money to be back. So that's what a managed investment scheme or fund is. And now to the more recent part of this. On the 24th of May, so not that long ago at all, Clayton Utz, an Australian law firm, released an article on how ASIC, the Australian Securities and Investment Commission, is putting a spotlight on marketing and sale of initial coin offerings, ICOs. The purpose of this focus on ICOs is to allow organisations dealing with them to potentially come under scrutiny in the event of any misleading or deceptive conduct in the marketing process and the selling process of this, electronic currency. Although there is still much debate surrounding whether cryptocurrency should be considered a general good or a security/financial product, ASIC has been delegated power by the ACCC, or Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, to intervene pursuant to Australian consumer law any allegedly misleading or deceptive conduct, even if it doesn't involve financial products or services, which is the focus of ASIC. In short, ICOs are subject to general law, and if they are considered a financial product, they are subject to either the Corporations Act of 2001 or Australian consumer laws, both of which prohibit misleading or deceptive conduct, and ASIC now has the power to go after any of the above issues.